Hey folks, just want to take a minute to introduce you to Mockbin. It's an open source, fully free API mocking tool that we've released as part of the open source by Zuplo suite of tools that also includes stuff like Sudoku, which is our API documentation and developer portal framework, and Rate My Open API, which is for getting feedback on your OpenAPI documents so you can understand what elements of those need to be improved. And as part of that suite, we also have this tool, Mockbin. To use it, all you got to do is go to mockbin.io, and there you're going to find two things on the main page. The first is for creating a new bin, and that is just a single endpoint that is going to return, any kind of request that you want. So maybe you've got something that you're testing and you want to have a 200 response returned every time with a particular body. Well, you can do that here. If you see here, you create your bin with the status code that you want, any headers that you want to add in, and any body that you want to have returned as well. And all of the headers and statuses are in here. So if I change this, say, to 404, it's going to switch to not found. If I change it to 500, it'll be internal server error. But I'll change it back to 200. You can also add any additional headers in here as well. The full list of headers that are available is here, so you can just select from this list if you want to. We'll keep it with content type application JSON for now. And here is a body, which right now is just set with a simple JSON body of message and hello world. I'll change it to something like hello from Mockbin. And now in order to use this, all I've got to do is click on create bin. And what it's going to do is create a specific URL for this particular bin that's going to return that 200 response with the message that I set up. So if I copy this and bring it in here, we can make requests directly to this and we'll get that response back. So you can see that's it. Hello from Mockbin. It doesn't matter what kind of request it is. I can change this to be a post request and we're going to get the same thing back. So very ubiquitous in that sense. And over here, you see those responses coming through. You can click on them, break it down. If there's any request body in there, you're going to see that here in its raw form. You can also see the full headers as well and start to use this for debugging purposes or just for information purposes if you want to. So it's pretty cool, very simple, and of course free, and you can just use it as much as you want. We've added an extra element to this now, though, that is super cool, and that is that Mockbin now has OpenAPI support. So if you have an OpenAPI file, and you want to have a mocked out API for that specific API, then you can use Mockbin to do that. And it's as simple as drag and drop. So if I grab an OpenAPI document that I have here for my to-do list API, I've got to click on create. And again, same thing. We have now a URL for this. So I can take this and pull HTTP back in here. This time we will switch it out to this URL. Expand this a little bit. And we'll make a GET request to, I know that there is a tasks endpoint on this, which is going to return a list of tasks. Now, what's going to happen here, though, is the request has come through, but I've got 400 because there's parameters that are invalid. And this is coming directly from what the OpenAPI document is setting out, right? So how the API should actually behave. And you can see here what I have is a missed header parameter authorization. That's required in the document. So when I'm making the requests, it needs to be required here as well. So we'll go and we'll add that in headers. We'll add authorization. And now the bearer value here can be anything because there is no authentication service behind the scenes here. This is just a mock, so it will accept in this case whatever it is that's actually in there. But if I remake the request again now, we are going to see the list come back. So we're now mocking against the actual API as it's supposed to be, which is great for testing out whether what you've actually got in that document actually rings true when you start making requests to it. So great for debugging, great for building out an application against without actually having a production server to work with. Great when you're working with something like SDK generation as well. If you want to run tests that are mocked against that particular SDK as you generate it, you could use something like Mockbin to do that for you. And again, if we get this out the way, you can see those requests come through in here, the headers, and of course that erroneous request that we did here first up. So that's it. Mockbin now has OpenAPI support, as well as the ability to create individual bins. One more very cool thing about this, though, is that we've joined two of the services that we have that are open source and free to use together in this case. So I'll go and grab the file for the to-do list. And I'm going to create the bin one more time. So this will be a brand new bin. Each time you do this is completely new. And you see here that we have generated API documentation for you using Sudoku. Sudoku is the API documentation developer portal framework that we've also open sourced. But what we've done is we've linked this together. So now that this exists as a mocked API inside of Mockbin, we can actually use that to get a demo version of what the documentation would look like for this API directly from Sudoku. So if I click on this, it's going to go through and show me what the documentation would look like if it was powered by Sudoku, based on the exact same OpenAPI document that I put into Mockbin at the beginning. And what's really nice about this is that this is going to be sitting on top of that mocked API, so it can use it to handle the requests that are in here. So in HTTP, I made the request to the tasks endpoint, but I can also see that right here on the screen, and I can do that test directly from here. So if I click on send, what I get back is exactly the same thing that I got back from the API itself. And this is coming back from that same document, but this time from a full mocked up developer portal and documentation powered by Sudoku. So I think that's really cool, connecting up OpenAPI documents together using Mockbin and Sudoku for documentation purposes. Both free, both open source. If you want to check them out, you can find them both on GitHub. You can find Mockbin at mockbin.io. Just another one of the great tools under open source by Zuplo. We hope you like it.